What's up guys, Jivan back with another video, and today I'm going to be telling you everything I learned in the Placement Cup. Ken and I just did like a huge VOD review, so I figured I'd just go through game by game and tell you the notes that we learned. If you want to watch the full tourney without a VOD review format, that's on my main channel. Without further ado, let's hop into it. So in game one, in this end game, we were basically just like focusing rotate over and over again, never actually taking time to really just create space and frag. The only reason this is an issue is because it was our game one lobby, and this is the easiest lobby we're going to be in the entire tournament. So we said next time we're in a lobby like that, we're either going to make an alpha play for height or just branch out and start fragging our lair. On top of that, I died to somebody in our tarp at the end of the game here, and Ken knew he was there but didn't say anything because he thought I was closer to him than I was. And this kept happening throughout the tourney, so we're going to be more vocal. When he's moving and tarping a bunch, he's just going to tell me like he's making boxes, he's tunneling to the zone. And if I'm like getting loot, I'm going to say I'm getting loot. That way we always know where our teammate is. You'll definitely see it happen a few more times in this tourney. So chrome splash mistakes were one of the biggest things that just kept messing us up in these end games. This is one of the first ones. When you get into the chrome ball, it launches you forward, so you got to make sure you give yourself enough space so you don't fall down like I did here. This was my biggest game of just choking the chrome splash. Like I was accidentally dashing into boxes, falling down. It was bad. You'll see later in the tourney, but the biggest thing you gotta do with the chrome splash is just slow down with it and don't dash unless you see the clear path with dashing, which I've said in other videos, but I'm telling you, you'll see it later. It's so important. And this is something that Ken didn't know, so maybe some of you don't know either. When you press the dash button, like double jump with the chrome ball, it launches you in whichever direction your movement is pointed. So if you quickly point to the right, you will be dashing to the right. Similarly, when you're jumping out of the chrome ball, it's the same thing. If you're pressing backwards while you jump out, you're going to jump backwards out of your chrome splash. So if you were messing up the movement, maybe that was something that was messing you up like it was for Ken. To end that game, I tried to phase through this guy's wall and he had no idea I was coming, but it's just so slow that he's going to have time to react every single time. So I gave it a shot, but from here on out, I'm just never going to do that again. I'm going to be either break down or break up in this type of situation. So in game 3, Ken and I get a really nice refresh by sneaking into somebody's tarp. This is another chrome splash mechanic mistake. You got to learn that you can't sprint while in chrome splash. It gets him killed here. He accidentally goes into the ball when he pressed the sprint button, and then he ended up dying. So this is something that Ken and I are adding to our strategy for season 4. From here on out, Ken and I are constantly going to stay chromed. That way we know we can never sprint. Unless we're in a situation where we know we shouldn't be chromed, then we won't be. But for the most part, anytime the chrome splash wears out, we're going to go to the back of our tarp and throw a chrome splash down. And then we'll go back to the front of the tarp where we have edits and we can actually move around. Anytime the chrome runs out, Ken's just gonna throw one down. That way we're constantly in chrome state and our minds will be trained to never try to sprint because we know we're always going to be chromed. I think that's going to help us out. Plus it's good to be chromed because then you can get really fast rotates across the zone by just a quick double jump and jump out of the chrome ball. See what I mean? The next game is a perfect example of that because Ken was leading this rotate and it got really congested over here. You can see Ken starts to like jump out and then get back into the chrome ball and like doesn't really know where to go or is just like panicking with the mechanics. But then if you look at my movement, I'm just being patient and then I charge up my sprint, I see where I want to go, I get over top of everything, and I'm in like the best position out of anybody there. Patience with the chrome splash is everything. One of the biggest things that I need to start doing, and one of my biggest responsibilities, is keeping pressure on height and keeping eyes on height. You would maybe think that IGL should be doing that, but that's just one more thing that I can take off Ken's plate so he doesn't have as much to think about. As a fragger, it's really easy for me to scout around. You know, I'm looking around for kills, looking at tarps around us, telling Ken if we need to go up or down layers. But another thing I can look at easily is just height. If I see height is a little bit griefed, I'll just shoot at them a bit, tell Ken I griefed height a little bit. And like in this game, it was perfect. We ended up getting high ground from them. But you'll see in a later game, I kind of messed this up and we could have had free high ground, but I wasn't fully paying attention to it. So a couple mistakes that I actually didn't even show in my main channel video. I only showed the first 4 games, but in this game here, we get psychoed right before moving zone. These kids were brain dead to the fullest. First off, what I should have done here is set up a window peek. I could have bodied the guy, reset my edit, held them out of the box, then Ken could have bodied them. It would have been the easiest fight ever if I had approached it with a window edit. but I didn't, and we still could have won it. I got this guy one shot, Ken killed the other guy, and this player was in all of our builds, but instead of finishing the fight, Ken just let me die and healed up so that he could win his ones. But if he just would have gone out the side and set up an optimal peak, he would have guaranteed us the win and the res. So this actually happened again later in the tourney. Basically, the lesson learned is that if there's an opportunity to finish the fight when it's a one-on-one with 2 knocked bodies, go for the kill. And when I say if there's an opportunity, I mean if you have an opportunity to do it without taking any damage. Like Ken had all the edits there, so he could have set up an optimal peak. But if there's no optimal way to end it, maybe take your time, get healed up. In our last game of round 1, Ken's doing a sprint rotate over tops here, and he just flat out didn't see high ground. But if he had seen high ground, what I told him to start doing is just build a wall and then place a floor on top of the wall and sprint, but just spam floors above you while you sprint. That way we're blocking our angles. Sprint rotates I feel like only work if 1, there's no line of sight on you, or 2, you build off the angles of most danger, in this case high ground, while sprinting. In game 1 of the finals, you can see here that I'm going for a kill. There's a solo being pushed by a duo, and I'm trying to pick off one of the duo members. It's one of those situations where Ken actually didn't comm that he was moving, so he was on the other side of the zone, and when I go to move towards him, I see he has his entire right side open. So he could have gotten jumped so easily. So what we talked about is I can frag back tart, but we just have to communicate more. If I'm not with him, he needs to block his angles, or if he needs me there, he needs to comm that he needs me there. That's it. Easy lesson. Then Ken goes down later to a Chrome mechanic again. This is another good lesson for Chrome users. You can see that he just jumps out of his Chrome, and he doesn't actually use the double jump, he just jumps out of the Chrome. So if he would have double jumped first and then jumped out in the direction he saw that was safe, rather than just jumping out of the Chrome ball, he would have survived here. So main lesson is don't jump out until you see a clear place to jump out to. He just like free jumped across the zone and fell straight into a tart. It's kind of unfortunate, but it is a good lesson to learn. In this game, there wasn't really a clear path to go with the Chrome splash, and Ken cut to the middle where it was very congested with builds. It could have worked out if he didn't die to that player. Like if he would have noticed that there was a team right next to him, we could have survived that and gotten a double kill and won the game. But main lesson learned is that try to avoid going into congestion, and if you do, like be careful getting out of the Chrome splash. Biggest note of the day, be careful getting out of the Chrome ball. Later on, I choke. I throw down a Chrome splash here thinking my sidewall was open. It is so important that you don't fully chrome your box and then just go out a wall, because then you're just going out into no visibility. I should have left my sidewall open so that I didn't have to waste time dashing through the wall. You know what I mean? Make sure you have an extra box that you can edit out of rather than phase out of. This is another lesson for me as a fragger. Right here, I'm taking shots at this team building in wood, which is fine. Someone builds in wood, you get a crack on them, you cut them off, free kills. The issue was, I was peeking out of the front box here. And I think to make it easier on the IGL, it's typically better to avoid fragging from the front box. That way your IGL can use that to scout the next rotate. Because I was sitting in that front box, Ken kind of had to like sit back and he couldn't really scout fully, and then we end up moving to a bad position. Something Ken asked me as a new IGL is if I felt comfortable when he does rotates like this. It's like sketchy rotates, but we need to get through, otherwise we're just going to be caught up in the back edge of zone. And I was like, yeah, I feel fine. The biggest thing as a fragger is that when you're doing rotates like this, you either need to stick right on your IGL's butt so that if you get boxed, you're both boxed. Or if you start to fall a little bit behind, build extra. Double edit when you're going next to people's boxes. Block off angles where you think you're going to get shot. When you're split, do those extra precautions. Now the last thing, this is what I was talking about earlier with height. I start to look at height here and I spray him out, but I see his teammate is beneath him and they're pretty solidified. But I should have calmed to Ken that I was griefing them a little bit, because look at this in a second. The zone pulls straight to us. They're on the way back edge, we're on the front edge, and they're really not that high up. We could have cranked up and just sprayed them down and had free height, but I just wasn't paying attention to them anymore. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things I'm going to start looking at as fragger. I feel like we did pretty good in a lot of these end games, and we're off to a good start, especially with this VOD review. We're going to have a lot of the Chrome Splash stuff figured out. Things are looking up, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, maybe learned something new. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.